adventures from Halloween 2022. Please welcome to the stage, from Halloween Every Night, Jessica Peralta. From Parks and Cons, Sean Marshall.
Yeah.
And your moderator, Midsummer Screams, Rick West.
Yeah.
How's everybody doing?
Yeah.
Who's tired as hell?
No.
There we go. How many haunters are in the room? All right. I thought it was going to be like every haunter in Los Angeles was going to be in here. Hi. All right. So I've got the clicker, and we're all in Christmas mode here, but we all know Halloween never really ends, does it? No. No. All right. So we're just going to babble on for a little while about some of our favorites from the haunt season. And you're here to listen to us babble on. Does that sound good?
Yeah.
All right. Actually, first, I want everybody to do this at the same time. 1, 2, 3, you're going to shout out your favorite haunt from Halloween 2022. And it's going to sound like audio diarrhea. Are you ready for this? 1, 2, 3. Didn't hear anything. Okay, that's fantastic. All right, so we're just going to get right into it. First of all, let's introduce ourselves a little bit for those of you that are new to class. Sean, introduce yourself and tell the good kids what you do.
Sean Marshall from Parks and Cons, and we cover a ton of Halloween stuff in addition to theme parks and all sorts of pop culture conventions. Our big thing in terms of Halloween is trying to see as much as we can, and podcasting, video, social media on all of those. So this year we stopped at 137 spots. So if you ever want to listen to a lot of hours of Halloween talk, there's 137 locations discussed for this year. And been doing that for, I don't know, about 5 years, trying to get over the 100 mark. So good.
Well, Jessica?
I'm Jessica Peralta. I'm the editor-in-chief of Halloween Every Night, and we are a news and entertainment website covering the Halloween and horror community, and we do video, stories, social media, and yeah, we love the community.
Awesome. And I'm Rick, and I'm one of the creators of Midsummer Scream and Season Screamings, and been involved in the haunt community here in Southern California for a long, long time. I'm not going to say how long, because when I do that, people go, oh, and I'm like, dude, come on, I'm not that old. God. So anyway, we see lots of haunts because one of my missions during the haunt season is to scout and find folks to put in the Hall of Yuletide Spirits, and then next year in the Hall of Shadows in Long Beach. So that's how that works. That's how sausage is made, kids. So we're going to get right into it. And the first question is, what is a haunt? What is a haunt? I think people have different definitions of what they consider haunts to be. So we're just going to go right down the line, starting with Jessica. What in your mind checks the box as a haunt?
Let's see, well, walkthrough experience is often a haunt. Obviously, scare actors are in there. I think some lines are often blurred. I think we're talking about delusion as a kind of that on the edge. It's usually an experience that intends to scare people. So, but I think those are the key things for me.
Yeah.
I always think of anything that kind of inspires that kind of scary Halloween feel. I mean, I know for me, like, there's always looking for a haunt fix all throughout the year. So anytime you walk into Knott's Berry Farm, you go to the Ghost Town Street, instantly it feels like Halloween, even if it's like the Boys of Berry Festival or whatever. But that atmosphere of just kind of a creepiness to it, if you find the right corner, the right lighting.
Yeah, totally. And I agree. And for me, it's anything from a paid mega event like Knott's Scary Farm to somebody that just takes the time to buy some decorations and decorate their yard, And I know that I find all the time, and I know you guys find all the time, a lot of people that aren't on a list necessarily, or they're not known as a place to go. And when you talk to the owners, they just always say the same thing: oh, we just want to do it for the neighborhood. We want to do it for the kids on Halloween. So God bless all of you out there that take the time to do that. That's what, in my opinion, that is the absolute center of what Halloween is. It all starts at home. It all starts with people like John Murray, who create Halloween Horror Nights. They all started as home haunters. They don't just like suddenly become John Murdy of HHN because they filled a position. No, it's a homegrown thing. And so everything Halloween anywhere starts at home. And yeah, I agree with you. That's what a haunt is. It doesn't have to be a big attraction. It can just be a yard display, and a haunt is a haunt is a haunt. Okay. And we all have our phones out up here, not because we're like texting or getting texted, because we have all seen so many haunts. We've seen over 100, each of us has seen well over 100 stops this year. And so we can't possibly name everything. This is going to be just a scratch, the tip of the iceberg. So no disrespect if we don't talk about your haunt or we don't show pictures of the haunt. This is, like I said, this is just a quick hit, but we all have lists like 8 miles long. Because at this time of year, and it's already been a few months, we can't remember anything except about 180 haunts all have the name Hallows in them, right? It was like Monkey Nut Hallows. Okay, it's just every haunt seems to be something Hallows this year. So not that there's anything wrong with that, or Monkey Nut, but you know, it's just, it was the buzzword. So we're just gonna have our notes out. So, and we're gonna tell you guys how to do that too at the end of this. Because people are always like, and I heard the gasp when Sean said they saw 137 or, you know, whatever it was. And I have friends that say, dude, I saw like 4, you know, type of thing, right? And so people are kind of confused when you say, well, we see 15 to 20 at night. And they're like, how is that even possible? It's possible, and you're gonna do it, you're gonna do it, you're gonna do it, I promise. So first we're going to talk about theme park events. How many people out there by applause went to a theme park at Halloween? So that's the natural homegrown answer here in Southern California, because Halloween events at theme parks, that was born here in Southern California at Knott's Berry Farm almost 50 years ago. Next year will be Knott's 50th for the haunt there. So my first haunt at Knott's was about 1980, 82 maybe, and I heard somebody go, don't do that. But yeah, how many people here, I want to hear a round of applause, and I'm not going to call you up. By applause, who hasn't been to Knott's Scary Farm?
Jeepers.
So there you go. Now you have an assignment for 2023, because next year will be the 50th, and if you don't go, then we're going to call you out next year. So there you go. So again, we can't possibly talk about everything, and what we are going to do is just a quick hit. Let's talk about. We'll start with Knott's, right? That's where it started. So we'll start with Knott's. Sean, what was your favorite at Knott's this year?
I mean, in terms of the walkthroughs, although loved Grimoire and Bloodlines and seeing the new mazes, there was a lot about seeing Dark Ride going away, because Dark Ride has been such an incredible haunt, and it's one of those ones like. I felt the same way about Trick or Treat. There's just some of those mazes that you're like, I'd be okay if this maze stays here until the end of time. And so we found that every night, except we rushed to go do, you know, Origins and Grimoire and all of those, but knowing that Dark Ride each time we go, because we have the Scary Farm Pass, we're able to go a few times and go with friends, it was always like, there was something a little extra there. And obviously a lot of times when the mazes are on their way out, it also feels like the actors are maybe even a little more amped up and wanting to send it off with kind of that love letter. So we'll miss Dark Ride desperately, but I mean, we enjoy the whole event. And a big thing about Knott's is just how, you know, much they immerse the entire park, that it's hard to go anywhere without having an actor right there in your face. And that's, I know, like our favorite thing, I think, in general about Scary Farm.
Yeah, Jessica, what about you? What do you think?
You know, I feel like all of them were pretty good this year. I mean, when we went, it just seemed to, there was just something a little extra. I don't know what it was. Obviously, the new one, Grimoire, Bloodline, I just thought they were, you know, kind of a unique take on things. But I had a pretty good time this year.
Okay, that's good. Yeah. You know, for us, it was like, we hated seeing Pumpkin Eater ending. Like, Pumpkin Eater has been looking so good the past 2 years. I'm thinking Pumpkin Eater could have been around for another 5 years and it would have been fine. They really maintained Pumpkin Eater very well. And I gotta say, the Knott's team, as far as making shirts and all this stuff, how many in here would have bought the I Shit Myself on Dark Ride shirt? I think they really missed out on that. That was a gag at the end of Dark Ride. I think every haunt fan would have totally slammed down the money for an I Shit Myself. I would anyway. I would have done that. So I was challenged. So here's my challenge with a maze that is not only beautiful, and I'm talking about Bloodline, not only beautiful, But the challenge is when you have a shooter attraction, you're being rushed through, go, 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 and things are jumping out and you're shooting and you don't get time to like appreciate all the detail that goes into something. So I know that I talked to a lot of fans and a lot of people felt, oh man, if there was just a way to go through without the gun and be able to see everything the way it was intended. So that was my only gripe, and maybe it's because I'm getting older, but I wanted to like, it's not funny.
Yes.
What? You're gonna get old too one of these days, I promise. But no, to me, that's like distracting. And that's like, in real life, I design theme park attractions also in the industry, and the common argument is you can either have a shooter or you can have an attraction with a storyline. Because if you have both, it just doesn't work because everybody's doing this and everything, right? So it's just one of those things. I prefer mazes that you just walk through and you can see how beautiful everything is. But no, I mean, obviously they poured a lot of time and effort into the new mazes, and so good on them for that. And Glory 20s, is that in a great area at Knott's or what? Hearing that swing band play and all that is just like the best thing ever. It is so good. So what about horror nights? What did you guys think about horror nights this year?
Let's see, let me think back to horror nights.
It's a long time when you
Yeah,
see that
was
many
a
haunts.
long time ago. Oh, I love the Terror Tram.
Terror Tram.
Yeah, I thought it was, I loved that whole,
Yeah.
the experience there. I thought it was really well done. I felt like it was kind of a really added attraction for people, you know, because I don't think they changed it too much recently.
Right.
But yeah, I loved it. I love that part of it.
Adding the whole us, not up, that's a Disney thing.
That's
Us, two different movies.
No.
I think that was pretty cool walking through that. I don't know that I was all on board with the mashup of all the different movies. That was kind of weird-ish, but I liked that we got to walk through the Us set.
Yeah, the Terror Tram is like a favorite. Anytime you can walk, by the base hotel is a huge deal to me, and so I totally agree. That's a highlight. Also, just in general, the park, they used so much more of it on the upper lot than they have in the last several years. So there was like that kind of, they called it like their little secret scare zone over by the bathrooms. It didn't have quite a name, but that they had the stilt walker making his way around. I just like the Death Eaters over in Potter. Just having more of the park used for theming was, I thought, a big highlight to me in general, beyond just the mazes too.
Yeah, I know that Potter fans were really excited here because for a couple of years they've done the Halloween thing in Japan, in the Wizarding World. So they finally started doing stuff here. So I know a lot of people were really excited about having the Death Eaters here. I thought, you know what, I really liked The Weekend. I thought The Weekend was really interesting. Did you guys like that one?
Yeah.
I mean, like everybody was like, what? When they announced that, right? I don't really know The Weekend, but you know what? Not bad. And it was really, really interesting. What was your take on that? Were you guys kind of thrown by that too? Or?
Yeah, I mean, they always come up with interesting things, I think. So whenever they do something kind of outside the box, and obviously The Weekend, like there's no better marketing machine for them to bring in than The Weekend, so it made sense to sell tickets. But no, I mean, The Maze was a lot of fun. I mean, that was a really interesting way to see how they kind of combine video, the video from The Weekend, music and all of that into some sort of a walkthrough experience. So no, a lot of fun.
Yeah, I agree. I was surprised. I didn't know what to expect, but it was very good.
Yeah, totally. And let's see, who else am I missing? Of course, Fright Fest. What did you guys think about Fright Fest? What was your favorite thing about it, Sean?
So our experience there was really abbreviated because we had a conflict when they had moved their media night. So we came on a separate night. It was maxed out, crowded. So we were only there really a couple hours. The scare zones and the actors in the scare zones, to me, there is always like the biggest of the things that they offer there. I'm trying to think of what jumps out there. There was the entry area, they had changed the scare zone. I don't remember what the name was, but kind of like an aquatic kind of aquarium type feel to it, which was pretty fun. At least when we were there was a ton of actors there really interacting and kind of going back and forth between like photo op type acting and then obviously just the scares too, which was fun.
I did not make it out to Fright Fest.
All right, you're fired. That's it. Okay. No, we like obviously the actors that are there are really good. The Sliders and Innocence up on Exile Hill. That's always really good. Vault 666 looked really good this year going through. And yeah, I mean, that's Magic Mountain. You know, you got to do that every year. So good. Did you guys get down south to San Diego for Hollow Scream?
Yeah, we did. Hollow Scream was the only thing we did down in the San Diego area this year, but yeah, we did make it down there.
Yeah, I thought they really improved it from, you know, the first year. I thought they added, the design was a little more, like in general for the whole park, I felt like it was a little easier to navigate. The show was pretty cool. It was, last year it was very long. I remember it was like a vampire theme last year, but this year it was pretty, just a little more succinct, but it was cool. I liked it.
Yeah. We didn't get down to San Diego at all, and we know that they have started doing Hollow Scream down there. It's really funny. It was really weird. Like last year when it came on the scene, everybody was kind of bagging on them, saying, "Oh, they're going to do a Halloween thing." People on the West Coast don't realize that Hollow Scream is a really, really long-standing brand from the West, from the East Coast. Started with Busch Gardens Tampa and Busch Gardens Williamsburg, and that is now spread to SeaWorld Orlando. And so it's not something that just somebody pulled out of a hat here in San Diego. It's a long-standing, almost as long-standing as like something like Knott's Scary Farm. That's like the East Coast version of Knott's. So keep that in mind when you go down. They obviously probably should throw more and more budget every year at it, because let's face it, when you're in Southern California and you have a haunt event, you can't throw just a few bucks at it and expect to compete with Universal or Knott's or anything like that. So the theme park companies have to like understand that. And a lot of the times these companies have corporate in like Middle America or not here. So the bean counters that are setting up the budgets for these things, they don't understand our market here. So they just I guess that's the wish, that these parks would throw big budgets at the Halloween events. At least that's what we want, right? So, all right, let's move on to independent attractions. And that would be anything that's a standalone, whether it's like a Delusion or Shocktoberfest, anything that is a standalone attraction. What stood out in your mind from this year for any of these standalone attractions?
Shocktoberfest was a surprise. I mean,
Right.
yeah, I think that they did. I mean, they did really well. I wasn't sure what to expect, and I think a lot of us were sort of like, what are we gonna get? But it was good.
A lot of fun with Shocktoberfest. Was surprised how much fun we did have with it. Bones Gulch was, I think, a really big deal. Seeing
That's not Bones Gulch. Yeah. Right as you said that, I was like, oh, that's another Western thing. We'll get to that in a minute.
Yeah. And Fear Farm, I mean, both of those, I mean, we had so much fun at both of those spots, and they both, I mean, it's not just how much fun they are and how great, I mean, everything from the actors are all out, the lighting, the sets, all of that, but also you can feel both of them, like there's a lot there to grow in the future. Like, it's not something that's just here for a year and it's, you know, we'll see what happens to it. Like, you know, you'd be shocked if either of those weren't back in 23 and 24, 25 and beyond, but they have such great Western theming. And again, so many of us growing up with Knott's, that's always kind of, I think, a part of our heart is anytime we see anybody that sees that kind of love letter as part of their event, and then when they execute it really well, it's just so fun. But I mean, the actors involved were, I thought, off the charts, and just some of the highlights of the entire haunt season were between those two spots.
Yeah, so this is a picture, and the reason I did this big screen is because there's a story that goes along with this. But how many people went out to Fear Farm this year? A couple, because it's a long drive, right? It's a long drive. It's up in the Hesperia area, and Hesperia area, and it's kind of a slog from LA or Orange County or even the IE, depending on where you are there. And they're the guys and gals that did our entry to the Hall of Yuletide Spirits. What do you think about that? You like that? They're a wonderful team, and they're fast as hell. They say yes to every job, and they just get it done, and it's amazing. And so we went to Fear Farm for the first time, and they have this entire ghost town that they have built, and there's all sorts of facades. There are several walk-through haunted attractions, and they have a hayride. And it was nuts. It was really, really good, and it was so much fun. And then after Halloween, we were so glad that we went, because everybody's like, oh my God, this is the best thing. And last year we just couldn't because we didn't get out there, and because 100 haunts to go to type of thing. So you got to choose your battles. So we went this year and we had a great time. We thought it was fantastic. And right after Halloween, the winds came and that entire ghost town that they'd had for 5 years was destroyed. So they were supposed to have a Christmas event. They were going to turn it into a big Old West Christmas village and everything. The entire thing got wiped out. And I just said to them, man, what do you do at that point? And they said, well, we just wake up the next day and we start rebuilding. So that's the Haunter way. So God bless them. And the fact that they went through all that and still came through and had a month or so to create everything for the Hall Yuletide Spirits, that's pretty amazing. So definitely appreciate that. If you get a chance to see it and you haven't, be sure to see that today before we're done. Also though, and we'll go back, we'll get this in a minute, Jim, we'll get to this in just a second, but other independent haunts that you guys are like, I thought Shacktoberfest was fun. Did you guys go to Shacktoberfest? I'm gonna go back a little, because that's like throwing me off. Okay, so Shacktoberfest was interesting. I didn't know what to expect, and I don't know about you guys, but I was going nuts. Like every comment about it was like, yeah, but it's not Dark Harbor. And it's like, well, no, it's not Dark Harbor. It's a different company. It's a different concept. Unfortunately, don't know that that's ever coming back, and we just got to move on. I'd rather have something than nothing at Halloween there, right? So it was done by 13th Floor. They're a great team. We love 13th Floor. And, you know, I'm not a sports fan, so I know who Shaq is, but I thought, okay, well, if that's going to be your figurehead, that's your figurehead, and go for it. We didn't know what to expect, but we went. We had a really good time. You know, they had not mazes, but they had trails, and they were kind of like hybrid mazes, I think. And it was kind of cool. Like in the afternoon, it was family friendly, and the monsters handed out candy and all that. And then after dark, it got scary, and I thought it worked. It was pretty elaborate. I thought it was more elaborate, you know, than it was. You know, it turned out to be more elaborate than I thought it was going to be.
Hey, I couldn't agree more. It was far more. I know Carmel and I both were like, oh, you know, we'll go, and of course they're having an event, we'll see what it is, it's fine, okay. And then we got there the day part, and they were giving out the candy, and it's like, oh, these are nice things. But when the night came, one, it was interesting to see the actors pivot from being friendly and handing out candy to coming out with the chainsaws in a matter of minutes. It was fun and interesting and different. But the kind of trail idea was really cool, because it's like, yeah, they had what set pieces they would have there as like entry stages and stuff, but you ended up getting a really fun kind of scare walkthrough experience, even though it wasn't maybe enclosed in kind of in that traditional sense. So yeah, we were quite excited about the whole experience.
Yeah, I love their animatronics and their props. I thought they were pretty good. You know?
Yeah, I think for a first year event, it really exceeded our expectations. You know, going in, and we'll see if it comes back next year. We don't know with these things. Queen Mary is undergoing all sorts of changes these days, so who knows what the future holds for that, you know? But yeah, that was fun. Delusion. Let's touch on Delusion. That's a big one. You guys go to Delusion? All right. So yeah, let's touch on that this year. Sean, you want to go ahead?
Had a lot of fun with it. I mean, obviously, with all, I know in our situation, it always depends what group you're in. And so the group that we were in, they were all. None of them seemed to know what they were there for, and they were all intensely scared, and so we spent a lot of time trying to avoid them running. But I thought the fact that they were running, I mean, literally, I don't think I've seen a group just want to run from room to room as much as these 10 other individuals there. But I did say a lot about them kind of bringing the scare factor, which I know has been something like, we've loved Blue Blade. I mean, I don't think there's been haven't had a lot of fun with, whether it was more in the scare side or more on the adventure side, but I think it spoke to that there was a lot of scare here. We got to see it really firsthand with this group that we were with. They weren't necessarily appreciating, you know, set details or the actors talking. They were just scared of, you know, the next monster that was going to come or whatever. But it was a lot of fun, big fun finish, and some cool set pieces in there and some cool things they had to do as well.
Did you guys get out to see that?
Yeah, some on our team were actually the PR girls who were with us, so they had a similar experience where they were a bit terrified, so that made it fun. But yeah, I feel like it was really up the creep factor, and I mean, I felt it, you know, a little bit. There were some scenes that were good, you know.
Yeah, what was interesting was last year, seemed to be like the scarier version, right? But I thought this year was scarier of Delusion. There were big creatures, and I thought the spooky factor was now, which was funny because it wasn't set as a scary piece necessarily, right? And so I thought that was very interesting. One thing that is kind of crazy about Delusion is while it appeals to so many people, like, again, like the older I get, or if I have issues with my knees, I know you have issues, and everybody knows you have issues with your feet, right? The Delusion is really, really physical. Like, there's a lot of moving quickly, there's a lot of crawling, there's a lot of crouching down and hiding under beds and things. And I thought to myself, boy, a few more years or a few more problems, I can't do Delusion, you know? That box becomes unchecked. So that's one thing that's only one thing you guys got to keep in your back pocket when you're planning is it can ask a lot of you physically at Delusion. And I told John Braver, dude, you're trying to kill me. But you know, it's a great show. It's absolutely worth it to get out there and check it out. The thing that's cool about Delusion is that it changes every year. This is the first time in maybe its history that it's stayed in the same place twice. I thought that this year's iteration was better than last year's. Last year's iteration was great because you had the reveal of the big house. And that was like the biggest FU of the entire season, right? Seeing the house come into play. But this year, I think they did a really good use of space with it. And I thought it was really spooky. I like the big creatures, and I thought that was a lot of fun. So there we go. Have I missed any standalone that we should touch on? We're all sitting here thinking, No? Who? What?
Hayride.
Hayride. Let's talk about Midnight Falls, right? All right. Jessica, did you go to Midnight Falls?
I did. It was, you know, with Hayride, you always sort of know what you're getting with it, but, you know, the Hayride is always fun going through, and people, I mean, love to go. It's always packed when we're there. It was, you know, I think when we went, it was a little light on the actors, but overall, you know, you can always fall back on Hayride because of, you know.
I mean, Midnight Falls, like they always say, want to live there in that, you know, center area with Monty and all those actors. They're so fun in terms of embracing you and all those things. So I know for me, the Hayride and the mazes have been like way secondary to the characters and just kind of hanging out in that parkway area there and kind of seeing them. And again, seeing Monty perform is always fantastic. So I know that's been, I'd say, my favorite part of Hayride for a few years now.
You guys go to Midnight Falls this year? Woo! All right. Our friend Ted is right here in the front row. Ted Doherty. He's a creator of Midnight Falls. There, folks. But yeah, I think that Hayride's strength is the cast, right? It's the citizens of Midnight Falls, right? I think that obviously 13th Floor bit off a lot here in Southern California because they also own-ish. I don't know exactly what the relationship is, but they own Delusion. And they are now doing Shacktoberfest, and then they have Hayride. I will say I did like Hayride when it was in the old zoo, much better. But you know, dealing with the city and the park and all that, sometimes we don't get what we want. So I think that that's probably going to be the location for the foreseeable future of Hayride. Getting there can be a schwagger group going up and down the hill. Take the bus, park at the zoo, take the bus. That's my advice to you guys. But yeah, I mean that's Hayride, right? How about the car wash, the haunted OC, the haunted tunnel of terror? Jesus, tunnel of terror OC. Did you guys go get your car wash and get scared?
We did not this year, but we have been before, yes.
Yeah.
We did. It was pretty intense this year. There were some very active monsters, and they did a great job. And they were really getting in cars, up over cars, everywhere.
Yes.
Cars. They were
Right.
very impressive. Yes.
It was crazy. The people that worked that, Long has a great thing going on with that. It's very successful. I think he opened a second location this year, actually. Yeah, great idea, right? Everybody needs a car wash and everybody wants to see monsters at Halloween, right? Did you guys go to the Tunnel of Terror? There's like 3 people that have clean cars. Okay, that's great. But the monsters were crazy in this. We have a video of Tunnel of Terror, so can we take a look at that, Jim, please? gets good. Emotional damage. No, that's how haunt monsters are created, kids. Who the hell gives their kid to a haunt monster? God bless them, because that was good, right? Thank you, Jessica, for that. That's good stuff. Oh, Prism and Hauntington Beach Haunt. Did you guys go to those? That was our first time going this year, and that was really, Prism started out as a home haunt in the Mission Viejo area, and they went pro this year. We saw a lot of crossover from home haunt to pro haunt this year, and so that was pretty cool. Did you guys got to these?
We've been to Prism before, but not this year.
Okay, yeah. So you saw them as the home haunt version, and just as good, obviously bigger scale for this. Jessica, you guys went, yeah?
Yeah, it was great. I mean, they really expanded the footprint, and they had to put it together really quickly because I guess Huntington Beach sort of offered that, secondary space to them, and they just put it together, and it was they were a great kind of pair.
It worked really well. It was at the Westminster Mall, and you find it felt old school haunt is what it felt like. It's like when you're young. I'm not going to say when I'm young, because that's like everything is in black and white, but when you're younger and you're driving around and there's a shopping center that has a haunt and you got to go see that. That's what it felt like driving up to this. It was very cool, and monsters outside. It was fun. So kudos to them. Prism has a display in the Hall of Yuletide Spirits, so be sure to get in there and see that. And I'm sure they'll be back bigger and better next year, right? All right. Now we're going to get to the juicy stuff, the home haunts. How many people went and saw home haunts this year? Oh, hell no. Then lie to me. How many people went to see home haunts this year? Okay, that was almost enthusiastic. You guys got to a lot of home haunts. We got to a lot of home haunts. It was crazy. Like, this is what we say when we get out and see 15 or 20 things a night. Literally here in Southern California, unlike anywhere else in the world, literally anywhere else in the world, Southern California is blessed with an embarrassment of riches when it comes to haunts in this community. Haunts of all shapes, sizes, scopes, and scale. And the home haunts, like I say, that's where Halloween starts. And so that is I don't know about you guys, I'm not going to answer for you, you can tell me. That's my favorite part of Halloween. How about you?
Yeah, I mean, I've told the story probably on this panel before, but just, back in, 2014 or something, I remember asking you at Knott's, like, what's your favorite part of Halloween? And you said, the home haunts. And at that time, we had not really experienced, I don't think any, we'd seen decor, but we didn't know things like Rotten Apple existed, or Sombras, or Santa Ana, or, the list goes on. And then going out, it's like, oh, this is why. And it's like, there's these distinctive seasons. You've got the theme park part of the season, which is the first maybe 3 weeks. Then you've got the independent haunt season for 2 weeks. And then you've got the home haunt season and the displays and all of that runs that next 3 weeks or so. Is a huge highlight of the scene, because there's such a sincerity to it. And you know that no matter what you're seeing, people put their heart and soul into, because they didn't have to do it. It's not for profit. These are things they're doing just because they want to bring smiles to the kids in the neighborhood, and maybe if some people come and take pictures, but they don't really do it to be on video or to be, talked about at a panel. So there's just a level of sincerity there that's just so cool to see the artistry on display.
Yeah, same thing. I mean, it's where the community, comes together, and it's a lot about family, and you see all these budding monster talent and people who are one day going to be designing the theme parks, and you just see it when they're kind of the whole evolution of it through the home haunts.
Just in the past 2 years, two young home haunters that I've known for several years now, watching their stuff, they've been hired, by theme park companies. So this is cyclical and it grows. And one thing that we have seen grow over the last several years is the complexity and how professional these home haunts are. And a lot of that that's the digital age. You get a 14-year-old or whatever that says, I'm going to build a haunt. Like, when I was a little kid, I was building haunts. It was nothing like this stuff, it was like sheets, and you turn the light out, and that's the haunted house. But what we're seeing now with these home haunts, in some cases, it's more sophisticated than what you see at the theme parks. And I attribute that to the digital media age. If you want to learn how to build anything, you just search on YouTube for it, and there's somebody showing you how to do it. Now TikTok, you can look up anything. So all of this stuff is at these teenagers' fingertips, and they're glued to the phone anyway, like all of us are. And so we're seeing it really accelerate, I think. What do you think about that?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I'm thinking about, weren't able to get there this year, but last year being at Anton Haunt, it's one in Temecula, and it was one we kind of found, and it was like, I think it was the weekend before Halloween, and there was trash bags, and it was kind of like old school, I'm doing haunt, but then as we were talking, like we went in the backyard, they had like a World of Color type show moment in the middle of their pool with pirates, and we found out like, I don't remember the name of the young haunter, but he was making like the fog juice, like his bathtub, like he wasn't like buying it, things like that, and it was like, this is like, seeing him take this entire house for like one weekend and whip it all up into this. And now this year they were on the SoCal Haunt list, and they went from there. But I mean, no doubt, more and more, just in the small amount of time relative to the time that we've been able to check them out, just in the small amount of time we have, the level of things that we even just stumble upon. Like, you've got Pumpkin Jacks there with their Stranger Things. I mean, that was incredible. But then, like, obviously in that, for those of us that were out in that area, there was like the Three Amigos thing across the street. There was like a swamp that looked like it was straight out of Pirates of the Caribbean, the Bayou scene over there. And then there was the Eddie Munson experience with Eddie Munson on top of an RV that they had built. And all these things that some were on the SoCal Haunt list, some weren't. But it was just people that were of all different ages, and some of them really young, putting these experiences together.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's amazing, really, what people do in their homes. We're always amazed and impressed at how they make it. I mean, you walk through and you're like, wow, this is just your yard.
Difference between today and the 70s, when I was trick-or-treating with my grandfather, you have something like this waiting around the corner for you, whereas back in the day, it was the red party light put in the porch, and they're playing the thrilling, chilling sounds of the haunted house, out of a phonograph in the window. So it's become such an incredible, just thing, like almost a subgenre in Halloween, and so, in my opinion, so much more enjoyable than going to the theme park conventions. Number one, there's not 120,000 people with you at these things, and you get to just talk to the owners and talk to the creators, and it's just so cool because they're not doing it for money. Doing home haunts like this costs people hundreds, thousands of dollars to put on for the community just because they love doing it. Theme parks, believe me, if it doesn't bring in a bottom line, it ain't getting done at Halloween. So there's the two different things with these. And and you talked about the hotbed. There are some hotbeds of activity here in Southern California. Always Burbank. Burbank, you can drive up, even if you don't plan this out, we're going to tell you how to plan things out. Even if you don't plan it out, you can just take a night, any night of the week, and drive up and down, just snake through the neighborhoods in Burbank, and you are going to find home haunt after home haunt after haunt, and it's unbelievable there. Santa Clarita has become the next. That is, you go up to Santa Clarita, and you are there all night, and you're seeing so many amazing things. In fact, you were talking about the Bayou House, right? So, and these are people that aren't on any list again. I don't know if I have a picture, but I think I do. Let's see. No, yes, I do. It's under yard displays. See what happened? I got myself in trouble because I decided I was going to separate them, and now I'm all over the board. But there we go. There's the Bayou one there. It is unbelievable. And this is a guy that he's not in the industry. He isn't on any list. In fact, he didn't even know about SoCal Haunt List, has never heard of Midsummer Scream. He just does it. And that facade is so big it covered the entirety of the front of his house. I mean, that was a really big set with an incredibly big water reservoir in the front. You know, it was insane, and it wasn't on the list. It took us by surprise, and it just blew our minds when we saw them.
And those two pictures that Rick has here, for those that haven't visited these, I mean, this is just a suburban community. This is not like out on an acre of land or anything. This is just like a house that looks like any house when you're driving through, you know, any random suburban community in Southern California. And then all of a sudden, for a week or two during Halloween, it becomes that.
Yeah, unbelievable to find these things. And lots of Stranger Things this year. Lots of Stranger Things stuff this year. Just want to make sure I'm not missing anything that I really definitely wanted to talk about. I want to talk about them all, but we can't. If you go out and see home haunts, I always got to throw this footnote in. If you go out and see home haunts, you're going to see a lot of tributes to the Hallowed Haunting Grounds. Hallowed Haunting Grounds started in the 70s here in Los Angeles and was considered to be the granddaddy of all home haunts. And it was created by a gentleman named Gary Korb and his dear friends. They were Haunted Mansion fans growing up as kids, and it lasted for over 20 years, and it was unbelievable, and it completely paved the way, blew the doors open for the haunt community here in Southern California. And it was beautiful because this was long before, you know, digital, the social media and all this stuff. You would just go to this place that you heard of that's crazy in Studio City, and the later at night you went, it was a who's who. You'd have Imagineers there, you'd have people from the film industry there, everybody would check it out. And the later at night it got, the wilder it got as far as to show up to see this stuff. And unfortunately, Gary's not with us anymore. Sorry. He passed away, so we lost a good friend of the community. But what's great is a lot of the home haunts, and even younger haunters that didn't know Gary, they put tributes like this, and you'll see them all over Southern California. And it's always with a lantern, because one of the gags at Hallowed Haunting Grounds was, I call it Gary's lantern. It was this floating lantern that just went in a random movement over this grave. And it was wonderful. And so a lot of home haunts, they have this tribute to Gary. I just think that's what makes this community so special. It's all about love, right? It's underneath you peel the onion of spookiness. Haunters are the most wonderful, beautiful people in the world, so sensitive. And the community, all of you guys that love all of this stuff, the community is it's just love, it's just positive energy, right? So to see something like that paid tribute is just, that does me good. I love seeing that. So many home haunts. And a lot of the home haunts here in Los Angeles, sometimes you don't have a whole lot of yard to make a yard display. And some of these, like these corpse figures here, this was on a strip that was like, I don't know, maybe 20 feet long and 5 feet wide. It was crazy. What they did with what they had, and it was beautiful because they put their heart and soul into it, you know? Really, really good stuff. Okay, so the weirdest one. I don't know if you guys saw this one.
We did.
So the Queen died, and you don't instantly think, oh, dude, that's my theme, you know? But we were in Burbank driving around, right? We went to this, it was a Bayou-themed house, and across the street, there's this huge, it's a palatial house, and it was lit up with bright white, you know, lighting, not exactly haunt lighting, but it was decorated the entire yard with all these skeletal mourners, and they had the royal family, and they had these big signs attached all over the house that long live the Queen. That was weird, right?
Yeah, every year. So this one we visited for a few years now. They always have the same, I think it's the same collection of skeletons, but it's different theme. And so like, I think it was either last year or 2020, it was a COVID vaccination clinic. And all of these skeletons wearing masks and waiting to get shots and all these types of things. I think it was like an asylum maybe a few years back. But yeah, this one really shocked us because every year we're like, well, what are they going to do this year? And it's like, we did not see that coming.
No, did you get this?
No, but I wish I did.
It's crazy, right?
It's on Bel Air, yeah, in that area.
Yeah, it is in Bell. Yeah, so it's crazy. And I don't know about you guys, but like when we're driving around, and I know this has to happen to you. We'll be driving around anytime in the spooky season, and I have my girlfriend watch out the windows as I'm driving, and the minute we see like a colored light on down the block or something, she'll say, "Colored light." I hit the brake, and we just like go down the street to see what the yard display is, and it's not. It's like a bug light zapper or something. But you know, but yeah, that's how we find so many of the haunts, right? And that's kind of how we saw this one. We saw it across the street, and we're drawn to it. But no, just such good stuff. So then the question is, how in the hell do you see over 100 haunts? Like, no joke, my friends look at me and they say, dude, we saw like 5, you know, and we thought that was a big deal. It doesn't happen accidentally, it doesn't happen organically. You gotta put a little effort into it, but it is easier than you think it might be. I'll let you guys talk about your process, and then I'll explain our process. I have the feeling they're kind of similar in the way that it's structured. So I'll let you start, Sean, and then Jessica, you go, and then I'll wrap up.
So for us, Carmel, who does everything with Parks and Cons, that's really the editing of the podcast and all of the behind the scenes things, so much of that. But she is the one that really puts together like our night to night driving list. And so a lot of times as we're coming into early October, she'll ask me like, what are the must things? What are the locations? What are the places you most want to see that if we don't get to there, because every year there's like one that's like, oh, we didn't get to it, now there's a lot of regret. And sometimes there's a lot of them that are in that way. And so we'll kind of go down that list, and then she organizes basically literally in 15-minute increments for every night. So she'll set an anchor. So for example, Temecula area, Wildemar, that's become one of those hotbeds that you spoke about. Like, it used to be something we quickly hit on a Wednesday, and now it's like, well, we missed Anton this year. There's Wolf Creek Island, Nightmare on Hickory, now they're Nightmare at Cottonwood Corner is like, it's a 2.5 acre haunted trail that they've developed with show moments and stuff. And they came back after a few years gone in this new location. So she'll find a place like that and then try to find things that are closed within it. She'll map out when we're going to eat, and we literally have a wall that has Post-it notes all over it, and then she kind of converts them into a form or a Google, invite on calendars, and then we set it up. I even tried to this year try to write out the social media stems, because whenever we post a tweet without the address, that's always instantaneously the one that somebody says, what's the address? And started like, okay, let me take what she puts together, copy and paste it into tweets, save it in drafts, and then add in the verbiage of what it is and anything else we think about it once we actually see it. But when we're hitting 20 or 25 in a night or something, it's like it's really chaotic trying to post on every single one. And so that's been something that's helped a lot.
Let's talk about your board. I want to hear about your conspiracy board.
I think for Carmel, she did actually the same thing with the Christmas season recently, because we found there's nothing to compare to the Halloween season, but there's become more and more of these things are conflicting, but literally taking big pieces of cardboard off it and then taking the Post-it notes and kind of putting, so if we knew this year Solwyn's Lot was only open Friday nights, it's okay, well, it's got to go on one of these 3 Fridays, where does it go, and then start build, Hellster will link in, okay, down the way is Pirate Ship, started kind of layering that, and so that's kind of where it starts. I have pictures on my phone of all these crazy Post-it notes, but ultimately taking the Post-it notes then and kind of going day by day and putting them in then the Google Calendar from there. But it's just a lot easier to physically kind of take the Post-it notes and okay, Saturday's not going to work, or as you know, things just pop up. A lot of times people, I know you guys get the same things as we get. One of the things that is the most challenging to me this season, well, one is getting up at 5 in the morning every day for work after being out till 11 every night for haunts or whatever. But the other is getting a lot of people reaching out and saying, you've got to visit us. What we do is so awesome. And it's a lot of times they'll say things like, it's better than the other stuff you're seeing. And it's no, it's not anything personal. It's just sometimes we can't get to certain locations. Like I said, this year we didn't get to San Diego outside of that one night in September, and it kind of killed me, since we know there's a lot of amazing stuff in San Diego, we just weren't able to get there. So We couldn't get to Fairbrook Manor this year. I know Fairbrook Manor is awesome and they do great community service, and it was
Beautiful,
just,
yeah.
we're in that last weekend, and Carmel and I are like, how do we move the Post-it notes to make it fit? And it's like, well, if we move it, that means we're not going to go to Sombras and Coffinwood and, you know, whatever else it might be.
Yeah, and you know what? Another hotbed area is the high desert. The Apple Valley area and Hesperia going off. It was the first time that we'd ever gone up there to see that, and the folks were so excited that we were there, and they're big haunt community fans, and it was just really great. So shout out to the high desert folks. That's another great place. How about you? What's your process?
It's a little more chaotic. I wish I had a board. A lot of it is just, you know, finding those spots, those areas, and trying to piece it together, you know, per night, and then things change all the time. I mean, there was a lot of reworking this past season, I think. Yeah.
It's a constant change, right? So what happens? I'll tell you what our process is. We'll figure, okay, we're going to do Burbank and Glendale and the neighboring areas on one night. And so I will go to a great tool is the SoCal Haunt List. And it's SoCalHauntList.com. And shout out to Derek who manages all that. We just go and you can either pull it up by region, or what we do kind of is like, if we know it's going to be on Saturday the 15th, we decide, okay, well, Saturday's going to be a haunt hop night. We call it haunt hopping. It's going to be a haunt hop night, so where do you want to go? We figure the Burbank area, you know, and then we look. We scroll through the days on the SoCal Haunt List. We scroll through the days and see what's open, and then we make a list of that, and then I open Google Earth, and you pop in all the addresses, and it does these little yellow push pins that you guys are seeing all over the place. And then you gotta have a good, whatever you use for GPS, we like Waze this year. Make sure you have that, and you just figure from where you are, do you want to start really far out, which is sometimes an advantage, right? You leave before dark, you start way out, and then you work your way back home. And you've got to budget like at least 4 or 5 hours a night to do this. You got to budget a lot of gas for this, so it's not cheap to do all this, but it's certainly a busy thing, and it's certainly readily available out there. Any direction you drive in, you're going to hit haunts. And we just go. But we will maybe schedule 10 stops per night, because we know inevitably we're going to find what we call bonus haunts, right? Bonus haunts is when you turn down the street and you're going from point A to Z, and there's all the other letters in between that aren't on the list that suddenly, you know, and it's so much that it gets to the point where it's like we roll the car for like a 2 mile an hour and look out the window going, oh, that's really nice, you know, taking pictures, because it gets to the point where you can't get out and take pictures. Otherwise, you're not going to make the rest of your list for the night. And then everything kind of unravels and falls apart. And another challenge is these home haunts, they're not open like Universal is for a month and a half, you know, doing their Halloween thing. And I know that you guys get this too. People are always messaging us saying, oh, we love They guilt me. They say, we really love Midsummer Scream, and we really wish you would come to our haunt. And I'm like, okay, well, we will try our best. We never make promises. And I said, when are you going to be open? And they said, we're going to be open for 90 minutes on Halloween night. And you're like, probably not. You know, you got to, and that's a delicate dance too, because we're finding more and more in society. You can have an amazing home haunt. You can thrill thousands of people. You can give hundreds, if not more, to donations to charities. It takes one Karen, it takes one neighbor to make a phone call, and you're done. And so a lot of these haunters, they do for the community, and they do it out of fear, because they know that they're just one phone call away from having it all shut down, just because somebody doesn't get it. And that's a real danger. So that's why a lot of the haunts only do it for short bursts.
The other thing we heard a lot, in addition to that, with home haunts this year, or displays more specifically, was just, as we've all experienced in the world has changed a lot. People have changed a lot, and many home haunters would say they found more and more citizens, guests of the world coming out and feeling okay of like stepping on the lawn and moving skeletons around and, you know, knocking over tombstones. Like, well, I want to get, you know, my mom said it's okay for me to sit on top of your skeleton horse to get the perfect, you know, Christmas card photo or whatever. And so more and more wanting to like limit hours so that they could really supervise. And, you know, that's obviously, that's got to be heartbreaking to spend so much time on it. And then it's out there for the world to, you know, do whatever they might do with it. So, I was just surprised how much that came up this year. We hear people like, that's why we're also limiting our hours, is because we're just finding people as citizens of the world are very unruly at the moment.
Yeah, you know, we found that too. Like, people say that things are going to get back to normal and everything. I don't think there's a normal to go back to, because the world has, and this is a whole other panel we'll have sometime. The world's changed. The world has changed. We've all been through a lot. And people have evolved differently out of it. And a lot of, I think, being at home and kind of being on Zoom calls or whatever, people just don't like have the boundaries that we had pre-pandemic. I mean, we were horrified. We were at Knott's our last night at Stary Farm, and we were in line to get pictures in front of the big skeletons that say Knott's Stary Farm, and the group in front of us were climbing up on it to get pictures taken. And you're like, and these are grown-ass people. These aren't little kids just being monkeys. This is grown adults doing this. And you're just thinking, like, in my day, like, that would have never happened. And knowing the haunt monsters, trust me, that would have never happened. They would have been taken to a corner somewhere. But it's so weird how the boundaries have changed. So that's something, yet another thing that haunters have to worry about now when they do these things. But God bless them that they do it, you know, because without the home haunts, there's just a whole lot of nothing out there except the theme park. So they really are. They're the meat on the bone when it comes to Halloween, in my opinion. So, Sean, where can people find you and follow you?
You can find us at Parks and Cons on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and then wherever you find podcasts, Parks and Cons. So lots of Halloween stuff there as well as other stuff.
Yeah. Jessica, how about you guys?
HalloweenEveryNight.com, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, TikTok, Instagram.
Yeah. And you know where to find me. I'm here, and I'm going to be in Long Beach next summer. You guys going to come play? All right, that's good. And I would be remiss if we didn't say thank you to our better halves, because they are our co-pilots through the season, and they're the ones that keep the machine running for us. So thank you for that. And that's it. And who's going to go see Home Haunts now next year? Have we equipped you with the tools a little bit better? Yes? Okay. That's your assignment, because we're gonna check back in with you next December. How does that sound? All right, that's our little scoop show, everybody. Thank you so much, and enjoy the rest of your afternoon here at Season Screenings.